Welcome back to the Kaiser Report. I'm Max Kaiser. Time now to go to Iceland. Talk with Jan Thorsen of the Eva Joly Institute. Jan Thorsen, welcome back to the Kaiser Report.
Hey, you're the Kaiser.
Excellent. So, Jan, who is Eva Joly and why is an institute named after her?
Eva Joly is a former investigative judge from France, and she came to Iceland in 2009 to take part in the investigation into the fallen banks. I think she was a great inspiration for us here in Iceland. You know, she is somebody who stands up for democracy, freedom and transparency and has been fighting corruption for the last 30 years. Based on her example, we decided, because she has now left the investigation because of her obligations in France, and we decided that we wanted to keep her inspiration and build on it. And so we have set up this institute with the aim of fighting for these issues worldwide.
Let me ask you, some of the bankers responsible for the collapse of the Icelandic banking system have international warrants for their arrest. They live in Chelsea in London, and yet the UK has not executed those warrants. At the same time, of course, the UK was adamant about clawing back ill-gotten gains through the Icelandic iSave account. They seem to be duplicitous as the IMF in this regard. But here you have international warrants out for arrest for Icelandic bankers. They're living in Chelsea. These warrants have not been executed. What's going on, Jan?
London actually is, the most secretive of all financial capitals of the world. I mean, it's the biggest tax haven. I don't think it's in the interest of the financial sector to arrest any bankers or to get behind what actually has happened. And I mean, there is no difference between the banking system in the UK or in Iceland, except for the fact that the Icelandic bank system actually went bust because the Icelandic government didn't have the funds to prop it up.
Well, it's amazing because in the UK, a couple of months ago, they were hit with a wave of street riots from looters, as they were called by David Cameron, and yet he does nothing about looters that are looting billions of pounds, and he lets these financial terrorists, gives them safe harbor in the city of London, which has become kind of the one place where these banking charlatans can get protection from David Cameron. Now, in the United States, there have been no equivalent investigations into the banking sector, and so a majority of the population still views the criminal syndicate running the banking sector as, quote, wealth creators. Now, in your investigations into banking fraud, did you find any evidence that these bankers that are committing the fraud are creating wealth?
It's difficult for me to talk about specifics about the investigation, but I mean, I think it's apparent to everyone that the whole banking sector is, well, to quote William Black, he says that the banks are criminal organizations. We are in a situation where actually we're asking the patient to heal itself. I think it's apparent to everybody that the system has nowhere to go, and that we need to think new thoughts and do things in a different way. But everything that's being done so far is simply trying to revitalize an already corrupt and bankrupt system. And it goes for the banks and it goes for so many other things in our society. There's no way we can continue on the route we are on.
All right, Jan, the IMF is claiming that Iceland is the poster child for their policies. That's clearly a lie, but we would expect that from the IMF. But other countries like Ireland and Greece are being subjected to banking terrorist acts. Has there been any communication between Iceland and Greece or in Ireland about sharing knowledge and experience about trying to protect yourself against the onslaught of these financial terrorists?
No, not that I know of, but I know that there are ideas around here in Iceland that it would be a good idea to share experiences with both Ireland and Greece and with some of the older clients of the IMF, for instance, in South America, like Argentina and Ecuador, who have gone down another route and actually decided not to pay off their debts and have thrown the IMF out.
Why is there no communication? Because you have a global movement, this Occupy movement, which is at one point had 1,000 cities around the world. They're all basically fighting the exact same fight that Iceland has been fighting, that Greece is fighting, that Ireland is fighting. You have articulate mouthpieces like Naomi Klein, who's on television a lot. She clearly knows what's going on, and yet there's no global effort or a central place in which to create an onslaught back, to push back in any economically reasonable, forthright manner. It seems completely jumbled. Why isn't it? Why? I mean, Iceland has got hammered by banking terrorists. Why can't they? Why is that message not getting out to these other countries as to how they can protect themselves? What's the problem there?
I think people are, waking up to the reality of the situation, and I think the Occupy movement shows that. But it's all relatively new. This mobilization is just a few months old. It took 30 years to get us into the position we're in now, and it's going to be a slow process going back. But I think it's a very, very good idea to make a global movement where there is actually contact between people from different countries so that they can share experiences.
Well, I hear you that there's a process that needs to take place in terms of people waking up. But if people get raped, financially speaking, I would think they would be pretty awake about the crime that was just committed. I know that in Ireland, for example, they threw out the embassy, the Irish embassy was removed from the Vatican because of the Catholic priest pedophile scandal. It finally went too far, and the Irish people said, we can't support this any longer, and they pulled their embassy out of the Vatican. They were quite ashamed by that. Now we have the IMF is doing the same thing to the financial system as these pedophile priests were doing to the religious system. So, there's got to be an outrage. I don't understand it. My own thought is that underneath, as working as a stockbroker myself for many years, I know that one of the keys in understanding these crimes is that the victims of financial fraud, like in Iceland or Ireland or Greece, they tend to blame themselves. Is this the case? Do the Icelandic people blame themselves for having been financially raped by the IMF and others?
One of the problems we have in Iceland, and I think this goes for many other countries as well, is that the press is not free. The reporting on what's actually going on, what the reasons are, what actually has been going on in the banks is not as good as one could wish. And I think in Iceland, as in many other places, there's this theory, we call it here the plasma screen theory. And this was launched by one of the bankers, that one of the reasons why the economy was in this situation was because people had spent too much. But, public debt in Iceland was, or the debt that the banks held when they went down was something like 10 times Icelandic GDP. And private debt was only a tiny fraction of that. But this is a story that we're being, fed with, that, it's the general public that's to blame rather than the banks themselves and the financial sector.
Well, I think that's a good point, because just in the past week in the United States, for example, we saw during the so-called Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, there was a surge of shopping where some people died. There was mass rioting, because the government loves that. The U.S. government is out there supporting this unruly, rioting, homicidal behavior to get that latest gadget at the Walmart. But at the same, so they support consumerism. But at the same time, the banks are creating these 10 to 20 times GDP in off-balance sheet debts that can't ever possibly be repaid. So the same mixed message in Iceland is what you're telling me. They're saying that the consumers caused the crisis in one breath, even though the solution from the IMF is to get consumers consuming again without ever paying any attention to the real problem, which is that the banks are fraudulent, nightmarish psychopaths.
Change doesn't come from above. Change comes from below. It's the grassroots, and it's the ordinary people of any society that make the changes. But I think we have to be patient. I think there are a lot of positive things that have been going on. The Occupy movement is one. People are waking up to this new reality that we are actually living in. But I think it's going to take a while for people to, gather their thoughts and come up with new ways and new ideas on how to organize. I think one of the key issues is democracy. It's the only way we can, take the power away from the politicians, is give it back to the people.
Let me ask you, the Icelandic krona and the economy collapsed, and now Icelandic economy is coming back. And the rating agencies are upgrading Icelandic debt. So for those in Greece and Ireland who say that if they were to pull out of the euro and their bonds would collapse, nobody would ever buy their bonds again. That's not true, is it?
The Icelandic government has issued bonds recently, and it went rather well. But I think perhaps you have to rethink this whole thing. I mean, why shouldn't the state itself create its own money? Why should it have to go onto the international market and pay interest on money that's created out of thin air by the banks that are lending the money? The state can issue its own currency.
Well, Iceland nationalized the 3 biggest banks. Is that still the case?
Well, no, they were not nationalized. One of the banks majority of the shares is owned by the Icelandic state, but the other 2 banks are now in the hands of foreign vulture funds. I mean, they bought the claims on the banks for, cents on the dollar right after the crash. And they are now these 2 banks are now being controlled by these foreign hedge funds.
Okay, so you have a foreign entity, hedge funds from abroad, controlling 2 of your banks.
Yeah.
Is there any initiative within the government or any policy to try to rid yourself of these vultures?
No. I mean, this is the market solution. And I mean, obviously these people aren't in the business for the long run. I mean, their aim is just to maximize the return on their claims, and it's going rather well. They have increased in value by some between 30 and 40%, I believe.
Right, but presumably within that is the seed for yet another cycle of over-indebtedness and financial crimes being committed again. So you haven't rooted out the cancer, in other words.
No, I mean, what happened was that the new banks, they took over claims on Icelandic house owners at a discount. They are being claimed at the full price. So there's a lot of money to be earned here, and there is no. I mean, the government has said there is no way there will be any sort of debt relief for homeowners.
All right, Jan Thorsen, that's all the time we have. Thanks again for being on the Kaiser Report.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Kaiser Report with me, Max Kaiser, and Stacey Herbert. I want to thank my guest, Jan Thorsen of the Eva Joly Institute.